I am sitting in my son's empty bedroom right now, holding a white envelope with his handwriting on it. The bed is still unmade from 3 years ago. His rock band posters are still taped to the walls. I can still smell his cologne in the air. 3 years ago, I threw Dylan out of this house because I believed my stepdaughter Kimberly when she accused him of something terrible. I thought I was protecting her. I thought I was doing the right thing. But today, I received this letter from Dylan after 3 years of silence. And I am terrified to open it because I know I might have been wrong about everything. Before I open this letter and face what I have done, I need to ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have ever made a decision, you regretted a choice that changed everything, hit that like button and subscribe. Because what I am about to read will force me to confront the worst mistake of my life. Let me take you back to where it all started. I need to tell you about my life before everything fell apart. My first wife Jennifer died in a car accident when Dylan was 8 years old. A drunk driver ran a red light on a Tuesday afternoon. One moment, she was alive picking up groceries. The next moment, she was gone. Just like that. Dylan and I were left alone in a house that suddenly felt too big and too quiet. For 6 years, it was just the two of us. I learned how to braid hair for school pictures, even though I did a terrible job. Dylan learned how to make scrambled eggs when I worked late shifts at the warehouse. We figured it out together. Every Sunday morning, we would drive out to Miller's Lake and fish until noon. Dylan never caught anything, but he never complained. We would sit there in comfortable silence, just being father and son. On Friday nights, he would try to teach me how to play his video games. I was awful at them, but watching him laugh at my mistakes was worth it. We cooked dinner together every evening. Well, I burned things, and Dylan ordered pizza. But we were a team. Dylan was smart. Really smart. He got straight A's without even trying. But what he really loved was music. He taught himself guitar by watching videos online. By the time he was 14, he could play better than most adults I knew. He dreamed of going to Berklee College of Music in Boston. He had posters of famous musicians all over his walls. He would practice for hours every night, and I never once told him to turn it down. That sound meant my son was happy. That sound meant we were okay. Then I met Amanda at work. This was 3 years after Jennifer passed. Amanda worked in the accounting department at the distribution center, where I was a shift supervisor. She was 38 years old, soft-spoken and kind. She had lost her husband to cancer 2 years before we met. She understood grief. She understood what it meant to rebuild a life after loss. She had a daughter named Kimberly, who was 14 at the time. Kimberly seemed like a sweet kid. Quiet, polite, always saying please and thank you. She called me Mr. Ellis for the first 6 months. Amanda and I started dating slowly. Coffee during lunch breaks. Dinner on Saturday nights. I introduced her to Dylan after 3 months. He was polite, but distant. I understood. He was not ready to see someone replace his mother. But over time, he warmed up to Amanda. She made his favorite meals. She asked about his music. She never tried too hard. And slowly, Dylan started to smile again at the dinner table. After a year of dating, I proposed to Amanda. We had a small wedding in our backyard. 20 people, a minister, and a cake from the grocery store. Dylan was my best man. Kimberly was the flower girl. I remember looking at all of them that day and thinking I had done it. I had found a way to be happy again. I had given Dylan a family. For the first 6 months after the wedding, everything was perfect. Amanda cooked dinner every night. Kimberly did her homework at the kitchen table. Dylan practiced guitar in his room. We were a blended family, and it was working. I thought we had beaten the odds. I thought we were proof that second chances were real. But then, things started to change. Small things at first. Kimberly started spending more time around Dylan. She would knock on his bedroom door and ask for help with her math homework. She would ask him to teach her guitar chords. She would sit next to him on the couch during movie nights, even when there were other empty seats. At first, I thought it was sweet. She was bonding with her new stepbrother. But Dylan did not see it that way. One night, about 7 months after the wedding, he pulled me aside in the garage. He looked uncomfortable. He said, "Dad, she is being weird. Can you tell her to give me some space?" I brushed it off. I told him she just wants to bond with her big brother. Be nice to her. Dylan stared at me for a long moment. Then he just nodded and walked back inside. He stopped coming to me with problems after that. Amanda started making comments too. She would say things like, "Dylan seems distant. Is he okay with us being here? Do you think he resents Kimberly and me?" I kept reassuring her. I kept saying Dylan just needed time to adjust. I kept making excuses because I wanted everything to work. I wanted my happy ending. Then one night around midnight, I got up to get water. I saw Kimberly standing outside Dylan's closed bedroom door. She was just standing there in the dark hallway staring at his door. When she saw me, she jumped. She said I heard a noise. I thought someone broke in. I walked her back to her room and told her everything was fine. I checked the doors and windows. Nothing was wrong. But I did not think about why a 17-year-old girl would be standing outside a 19-year-old boy's room in the middle of the night. I did not ask the right questions. I just went back to bed. It happened in October. I will never forget that night as long as I live. I was asleep when I heard Amanda screaming downstairs. Not just yelling, screaming. The kind of sound that makes your blood turn cold. I ran down the stairs so fast I almost fell. Amanda was in the living room holding Kimberly. Kimberly was sobbing. Her face was red and swollen. Her hair was messy. Her shirt was buttoned wrong. Amanda looked at me with pure terror in her eyes. She said, "Ellis, you need to hear this. Now." I sat down on the couch. My hands were shaking. Kimberly could barely speak through her crying. She said Dylan had come into her room that night. She said he tried to touch her. She said it was not the first time. She said he had been doing it for 2 months. She said she was too scared to tell anyone. She said tonight, he tried to make her do something she could not even say out loud. She said she fought him off and ran downstairs. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I could not breathe. This could not be real. Not Dylan. Not my son. But Kimberly was sitting there shaking and crying. Amanda was holding her, rocking her back and forth. And I made a choice in that moment. I chose to believe Kimberly. I ran upstairs to Dylan's room. I did not knock. I slammed the door open. Dylan was asleep in his bed. He woke up confused, squinting at the light. He said, "Dad, what is wrong?" I could barely get the words out. I said, "What did you do to her?" He sat up in bed completely lost. He said, "What, Dad? What are you talking about?" So I told him. I told him everything Kimberly said. The look on his face was not guilt. It was shock. Pure, complete shock. He said, "That is insane. I never touched her, Dad. You have to believe me." But I was not listening anymore. I was too angry, too scared, too convinced that I had to protect Kimberly. Dylan kept trying to explain. He said she is the one who keeps coming to my room. I told you weeks ago she was being weird, and I did remember. I remembered him asking me to talk to her, but I had dismissed it. And now it was too late. Amanda appeared in the doorway, still holding Kimberly. She said, "How can you defend him? Look at her." Dylan saw Kimberly standing there, and he just stared. He said, "Why are you doing this?" Kimberly buried her face in Amanda's shoulder. She did not answer. Dylan looked at me one more time. He said, "Dad, please. I am your son. You know me." But I did not know him anymore. At least, that is what I told myself. I said, "Pack your things. You are leaving. Tonight." Dylan did not cry. He just stared at me like I had become a stranger. He said, "You are really doing this. You are choosing her over me." I said I am protecting her. Dylan laughed, but it was not a real laugh. It was hollow and broken. He said, "No, Dad. You are protecting yourself. You do not want to admit you married the wrong person. So you are throwing me away instead." He packed his things in 20 minutes. A backpack full of clothes, his guitar case, his laptop, nothing else. He did not take any pictures. He did not take any of the things Jennifer had given him. He just packed the basics like he was going on a trip. But we both knew he was not coming back. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. It was raining. Dylan walked down the stairs with his bag and his guitar. I stood at the door. He stopped in front of me one last time. He said, "When you find out the truth, do not come looking for me." Then he walked out into the rain. I watched him disappear down the street. I closed the door. I locked it. And I went back inside to comfort Amanda and Kimberly. The next morning, I called the police. I filed a report. But Kimberly did not want to press charges. She said she just wanted Dylan to stay away. The officer said without her cooperation, there was not much they could do. So we dropped it. I thought I was being merciful. I thought I was giving Dylan a chance to start over somewhere else. But really, I was just making it easier on myself. If there was no trial, I did not have to face what I had done. I tried to call Dylan, over and over. But he blocked my number. I asked his friends where he was staying. None of them would tell me. One of his buddies, a kid named Marcus, looked me right in the eye and said, "You do not deserve to know." Then he walked away. I stopped trying after that. Life went on. Amanda and I went to therapy together. Kimberly started seeing a counselor. Everyone told me I had done the right thing. Everyone told me I had protected my family. But late at night, when I was alone, I could not stop thinking about the look on Dylan's face. The way he said, "You are choosing her over me." And I wondered if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. 3 years passed. 3 long, quiet years. Amanda and I stayed married, but something between us had died that night. We slept in separate bedrooms. We barely spoke unless we had to. The house felt cold all the time, even in summer. Kimberly was 20 years old now. She was supposed to be in college, but she kept dropping classes. She stayed out late every night. She came home smelling like alcohol and cigarettes. When I tried to talk to her, she would roll her eyes and say, "You are not my real dad. Stop acting like you care." Amanda made excuses for her. She always made excuses. She would say Kimberly was still traumatized. She would say Kimberly needed time. But I was starting to see the truth. Kimberly was not traumatized. She was spoiled. She was manipulative. And I had destroyed my son's life to protect her. I thought about Dylan every single day. I wondered where he was. I wondered if he was okay. I wondered if he hated me. I searched for him online, but he had deleted all his social media accounts. It was like he had vanished. Sometimes I would drive past his old school hoping to see him. I never did. I had lost my son, and it was my own fault. Then, one afternoon in late September, I came home early from work. I had a headache, and my boss let me leave at 3 o'clock. I walked into the house and heard Kimberly on the phone upstairs. Her door was open. I was about to walk past when I heard her laugh. Not a normal laugh, a cruel laugh. And then I heard the words that changed everything. She said, "Yeah, I cannot believe he actually believed me back then. Dylan was so easy to get rid of." I froze. I stood in the hallway not breathing. Kimberly kept talking. She said I just wanted more attention. Mom and Ellis were always talking about Dylan. Dylan, this, Dylan, that. I was sick of it. So I made up that story, and boom, he was gone. The person on the other end of the phone said something I could not hear. Then Kimberly said, "Wait, so he never actually did anything?" Kimberly laughed again. She said, "Of course not. He barely even looked at me." But everyone believed me, because I cried really well. It was kind of fun watching him beg his dad. I felt like I was going to throw up. My knees almost gave out. I grabbed the door frame to steady myself. Then, I pushed the door open. Kimberly jumped and hung up the phone immediately. She stared at me with wide eyes. I could barely speak. I said, "What did you just say?" She tried to play it off. She said nothing. "You misheard." But I had not misheard. I had heard every single word. I pulled out my phone. I had been recording for the last 30 seconds. My hands had moved on instinct. Kimberly went pale. She said, "You cannot use that." I said, "Tell me the truth right now. Did Dylan ever touch you?" She did not answer. She just started crying. Fake crying. The same crying she did 3 years ago. And I realized I had seen this before. I had fallen for it before. But not this time. I called Amanda. I told her to come home immediately. She asked why. I said, "Just come home." She heard the tone in my voice and said she would be there in 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. Kimberly sat on her bed crying into her hands. I stood in the doorway staring at her. I did not say a word. I did not trust myself to speak. Amanda came home and ran upstairs. She said, "What is going on?" I played her the recording. I watched her face change. First confusion, then shock, then denial. She said no. No, that is not what she meant. I said then, "What did she mean, Amanda? Explain it to me." Amanda could not. She just stood there, opening and closing her mouth like a fish. Kimberly started crying harder. Real tears this time. She said, "I am sorry. I was young. I did not know what I was doing. I lost it." I shouted, "You were 17. You knew exactly what you were doing. You destroyed his life. You tore this family apart." Amanda stepped between us. She said, "Do not yell at her. She made a mistake." I stared at Amanda. I said, "A mistake." She lied and watched me throw my own son out into the street in the middle of the night. That is not a mistake. That is evil. I told Kimberly she had two choices. She could write a letter to Dylan confessing everything and apologizing. Or she could pack her things and leave. Kimberly refused. She said, "I am not doing that." Amanda said, "You cannot kick her out. She is my daughter." I said, "Then you can both leave." Amanda stared at me like she did not recognize me. Maybe she did not. Maybe I did not recognize myself anymore either. But then, I realized something worse. I said, "Amanda, when did you know?" She did not answer. I said it again louder. "When did you know she was lying?" Amanda looked at the floor. She whispered, "I started to suspect it about a year ago. I felt all the air leave my lungs. I said a year ago, and you said nothing." She tried to explain. She said Kimberly was her daughter. She said she could not betray her. I said, "But you could let me betray my son." I told them both to get out. Amanda tried to argue. Kimberly tried to apologize again. But I was done. I was done with the lies. I was done with the manipulation. I was done with all of it. I told them they had 1 week to find somewhere else to live. Then, I walked out of the room and locked myself in Dylan's old bedroom. That is when I saw the envelope on the floor by the door. Someone must have slipped it under while I was upstairs. There was no return address. Just my name written in handwriting I recognized immediately. Dylan's handwriting. My hands shook as I picked it up. I sat on his bed and stared at it for a long time. I was afraid to open it. Afraid of what it would say. Afraid that he hated me. Afraid that he would never forgive me. Finally, I opened it. Inside was a letter 3 pages long written by hand. It said, "Dad, I do not hate you. I want you to know that first. I understand why you did what you did. You thought you were protecting Kimberly. You thought I was a monster. And I cannot blame you for that. But what I cannot forgive is that you chose to believe someone you knew for 2 years over the son you raised for 19. That is what hurts the most. You did not even question it. You did not even hesitate. You just threw me away like I was nothing. The letter went on. Dylan told me about the last 3 years. He slept on his friend Marcus's couch for 6 months. He worked 3 part-time jobs. He finished his degree at a community college because Berkeley was no longer an option. He could not afford it without my help, and he refused to ask me for anything. He got accepted into a music program at a state university. It was not Berkeley, but it was something. He was graduating this spring. Then, Dylan wrote something that broke me. He said, "I do not need you anymore, Dad. I figured out how to survive without you. But I am giving you one chance. I am playing a concert this Saturday at the Bluebird Cafe downtown, at 8 o'clock at night. If you want to start fixing this, be there. If you do not show up, do not contact me again. This is the only chance you get." I read that letter 5 times. Then, I put my head in my hands and cried harder than I had cried since Jennifer died. Saturday came. I stood outside the Bluebird Cafe at 7:30, too nervous to go inside. It was a small venue, the kind of place where local musicians played for college students and people who actually cared about music. I could hear the opening band through the walls. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought I might pass out. At 7:50, I finally walked in. The place was packed. I stood in the back half, hidden behind a group of people. At 8 o'clock, the lights dimmed. And then, Dylan walked on stage. I almost did not recognize him. He was taller, or maybe he just stood taller. His hair was longer. He had a beard. He looked like a man, not the boy I had thrown out 3 years ago. He was wearing a black shirt and jeans. He carried his guitar, the same one he had taken with him that night. He did not say anything at first. He just started playing. The song was slow and sad. Then he started singing. His voice was deeper than I remembered, stronger. The lyrics were about betrayal, about a father who chose wrong, about a son who learned to survive alone. I realized he had written it about us, about me. Every person in that room was silent, listening, and I stood there with tears running down my face. When the song ended, people clapped. Dylan looked up, and for just a second, his eyes met mine. He saw me. He knew I was there. He did not smile. He just gave a small nod. Then, he played 2 more songs. When his set was over, he walked off stage. I did not know what to do. I thought about leaving. I thought about running away like a coward. But I had already done that once. I was not going to do it again. I waited by the back exit. 20 minutes later, Dylan came out. He stopped when he saw me. He did not look surprised. He just said, "You came." I said, "Of course I came." He said, "I was not sure you would." We stood there in the alley behind the cafe staring at each other. I wanted to hug him. I wanted to fall on my knees and beg for forgiveness. But I did not deserve that. So I just said, "I am so sorry. I failed you." Dylan nodded slowly. He said, "Yes, you did." And that honesty hurt worse than anything. But it was what I deserved. I said, "I know the truth now. I know Kimberly lied." Dylan said, "I figured you would find out eventually." I said, "Why did you not tell everyone? Why did you not fight back?" Dylan looked at me like I was stupid. He said, "Who would have believed me, Dad? You did not believe me. Why would anyone else?" We walked to a coffee shop 2 blocks away. We sat in a corner booth and talked for 2 hours. I told him everything. I told him about the recording. I told him about Amanda knowing. I told him I was getting divorced. Dylan listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, "I do not forgive you yet. Maybe I never will. But I am willing to let you try to fix this. That is the best I can offer right now." I took it. I took that small chance, and I held on to it like a lifeline. I said, "What do you need from me?" He said, "I need you to show up. Not just today, every day. I need you to prove that you choose me this time." I said I will. I promise. Dylan looked at me with tired eyes. He said, "You promised before, Dad. Promises do not mean much to me anymore. So do not promise. Just do it." Over the next 3 months, I did exactly that. I finalized my divorce from Amanda. Kimberly never apologized. She never admitted what she did publicly. I did not force her. I just cut her out of my life completely. I started going to therapy once a week to deal with my guilt. My therapist told me that guilt was not enough. I had to take action. So I did. I showed up to every one of Dylan's concerts. I helped him pay for his final semester of college. I drove 2 hours every Sunday to have breakfast with him. We did not talk about the past every time. Sometimes, we just talked about music, or movies, or nothing at all. Slowly, over 2 years, we started to rebuild something. It was not the same as before. It would never be the same. But it was something. One day, we were fishing at Miller's Lake, just like we used to. Dylan caught a bass, his first one ever. He laughed a real laugh and said, "Dad, did you see that?" And when he called me Dad, it sounded natural again. It sounded real. I smiled and said I saw it. "I am proud of you." He looked at me and said, "I know you are." And in that moment I realized we were going to be okay. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. I learned something through all of this. Trust is not about how long you have known someone. It is about who has proven themselves through time. I chose comfort over truth. I chose my new wife over my own son, because it was easier than facing the possibility that I might have made a mistake marrying her. I chose wrong. And Dylan paid the price. Dylan taught me that forgiveness is not about forgetting. It is about choosing to move forward despite the pain. If you ever have to choose between the easy answer and the right answer, choose the one that makes you look at yourself in the mirror. Because some mistakes do not just break relationships. They break the people you love. And no amount of sorry can give back the time you stole from them. I cannot give Dylan back those 3 years. I cannot undo the pain I caused. But I can show up every single day and prove that I will never make that mistake again. That is all I can do. And I will keep doing it for the rest of my life. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to rebuild trust with someone you hurt? Have you ever been in Dylan's position, waiting for someone to finally believe you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story made you feel something, hit that like button and subscribe, so you do not miss future stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope you never have to learn this lesson the way I did. Take care of the people you love. Believe them when it matters most. And remember, some choices cannot be undone. Make sure you choose wisely.